Hi, thank you everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's session. I know we were listening to a beautiful music, but I've had to put that music off so we could share some knowledge on the skilled agile framework. So, I'm a passionate um, enthusiast about the skilled agile framework, and I've been working with organizations, both large and small, on the skilled agile journey. Today, I'll share with you 6 core things that you should know and remember about the skilled agile framework. And if you are able to remember those 6 core elements of the skilled agile framework, you can have conversations with anyone who's been working in an environment practicing the skilled agile. So today's session is all about the skilled agile framework. Last week, we had the opportunity of listening to um, Carlos, and he shared a lot about the Scrum framework. The Scrum framework is the most popular agile framework for teams. But when it comes to large organizations, the skilled agile framework works for a lot of large organizations. And why has it worked for a lot of large organizations? I'll be sharing some of the key elements that make it work for large organizations. For small organizations, they can afford to use Scrum, XP, Kanban, and feature driven development practices, all which fall under the Agile umbrella. But if you're a big organization practicing Agile, thinking Agile, being Agile, then when you start scaling up, it becomes an issue and you have to really think about it. Personally, I've been working as a safe program consultant. Um, Currently, I'm working with Philips, who are working in the research area, applying skilled agile framework, and it's quite interesting. Um, Other organizations that I work with are more in the technology area, and it's easy for them to just adapt the framework. But when it goes to research, there's a lot of adaptation that's required to make sure that it works. And I've seen a lot of changes being made to the framework to work in a research environment. So let me tell you some good stories. I'll tell you some stories about the 6 key elements you should always remember. And if you can remember this and put that at the back of your mind, the skilled agile framework will now be at your fingertips. And if you've got an interview and you're preparing for the interview, I would still recommend that. If it's a skilled agile organizations, think about these 6 key elements. Have them as part of your interview planning and prep activities to get you into that particular interview session. So let's take a look at it. We are large organizations. We have over 200 members of staff. Over 70 members are part of the development team, and we are delivering different in house systems and products for the market. As an organization, we are competent at using agile practices, but we are going through transformation and we want all our teams to work together. First, let's think about the journey. What should we do to become an organization that thinks and acts with business agility? So we're moving from team level to organizational level. How would the skilled agile framework work for us as it's been recommended by an agile coach? 6 things I would like you to remember as we go on this journey. First, the skilled agile framework builds business agility within the organization. And when we talk about business agility, is the ability of the organization to compete and thrive in a digital age and respond to market changes. We've seen the impact of COVID. Strategies that have been set for the last 10 years are now being amended weekly or sometimes daily. And there's a lot of war room um, meetings going on to make sure that companies survive. And for companies to survive, we can't afford to put technology on the side, but rather we expect leaders, IT operations, legal, finance, support, marketing, sales, and everyone to think in a lean, agile way so that we can continuously deliver innovative quality products and services that would help us stay ahead in the competition. So agility is no more an area just for technology or for digital teams. It's now something that all the teams within organizations have to practice. I've happened to train the experienced marketing team, and they said, wow, if we knew all this at the start, how beneficial will this be to us in helping us on our journey? So, as I started off, 6 key things for you to remember. Number one is business agility. Number two, we will talk about competencies. Number three, we'll talk about roles and teams. Number four, we'll talk about the safe configuration. And two important elements that add value to organizations practicing safe is using the PI planning as a cadence-based planning event and following the implementation roadmap. I've left the implementation roadmap last for a good reason. We will talk about the implementation roadmap as a session on its own because it requires diving in and understanding the core reasons why organizations need to use the steps in adapting the skilled agile framework. So, for organizations, whether non-profit or profit, they need to adopt a mindset where the entire organization is trained and transformed to a new way of working together to manage the silos. And business agility plays a big part to ensure that we are staying ahead of the competition. SAFE puts business agility into its 7 competencies. So the next area is looking at the 7 competencies that exist within the skilled agile framework. So if you're practicing business agility, what are the competencies needed for an organization going on that journey? So when I step into organizations, we start off by thinking, how can we help the entire organization? And the 7 competencies, which was introduced in 2019, is helping organizations rethink about going on the transformation journey. So the key part for me when I start talking is looking at lean agile leadership, which is at the bottom of the skilled agile framework. Can we bring leaders on the journey? Because leaders serve as the foundation for implementing any transformation. Have they been trained? Do they understand the new ways of working? And have they adapted to the new ways of working? It will be a waste of time or it will be a difficult exercise if we train all the teams and the teams know what to do. But our leaders are still asking for metrics from the past and they don't know what to do and they are unaware of what's happening. So a good practice is let's involve the leaders. And if we can involve the leaders, then all the other areas would work well on that journey. The 7 competencies within the SAFE framework are continuous learning. Everyone has to adapt that continuous learning mindset. If you want to stay ahead in this competitive age and changing market, then you want to have that continuous learning culture. But learning the right things would really help. Building the teams with team technical agility helps the organizations to deliver to its expectations. So let me just share a more nicer slide on the 7 competencies, though we can see it here. So the 7 competencies are in the round when you look at the big SAFE document. So in terms of the 7 competencies, I've talked about leadership, 7 as the foundation, the permafrost for driving an agile transformation. Team technical agility. Have we built a team? Have we given them the training? Do they have the right tools? Do they have an understanding of our current situation? And the next area will be agile product delivery. I've got a session on how to build product backlogs from scratch. I do see a lot of questions on LinkedIn and on various agile groups and other groups that I belong to. People asking the question, how do I build a backlog from scratch? As someone who's been working within product management and helping organizations, I see that there are many techniques out there that can help us on that journey where we build a backlog by understanding the epics features and then building them into stories, but also considering the technical architecture aspect, the data architecture, and the non-functional requirements, collaborating with our various stakeholders. And when you take a good look at all the things I've talked about in the continuous delivery pipeline, SAFE takes a look at it from a continuous exploration phase. When you can work well and produce the right things in your continuous exploration phase, all the continuous integration and deployment phases would work, because I've seen teams who said, we built a solution for the customer, but it doesn't work. Whom do we, when we start looking at it, where does the problem come from? Oh, the problem comes from requirements. So who gave us the requirements? Oh, the product owner and the business analyst. And then we ask the product owner, who gave you the requirement? Oh, the customer. And when we go down to the customer will say, you didn't ask me the right questions. So the product delivery aspect of the SAFE framework needs to work well for organizations. Then we talk about enterprise solution delivery for very large organizations like Philips, NASA, Fujitsu, Accenture, and the big banks. They will be thinking about enterprise solution delivery. They don't work with only one agile team or team of teams. They work with multiple teams. They outsource, they build in-house, and they buy off the shelf. And all of this must be collaboratively work together, or we must bring all of them together to make sure that we deliver business strategic outcomes. And look at this area focuses on execution. But the other side of the diagram takes a look at strategy. Strategy is so important. But if you don't build the right mindset, culture would eat strategy for breakfast. So think about it. We can have all the great strategies, but if we don't build the right mindset, culture would eat strategy for breakfast. And the first key things we need to look at: building a continuous learning mindset, training all the leaders within the organization, the entire organization going on that business agility journey, and then managing the portfolio of work. We don't have so much, or we don't have an unlimited amount of funds or resources or time. All of these are limited to us. So if we have the resources, the people, the time, we need to manage them properly. And it's the portfolio that does of those work, prioritizing the work that needs to be done and building the teams. In SAFE, we talk about the Lean Agile Center of Excellence that promotes healthy practices within the entire organization. So the 7 competencies are very important, and I've got a session where I'll just look at the 7 competencies. The next area which I would like you to put on your mind is the roles and teams involved in the SAFE framework. If you are invited into an organization working and using SAFE, you need to understand the roles and teams involved. So when we talk about that, this part of SAFE covers most of the roles and teams. We've got roles like the Scrum Master, Product Owner, Agile team. What you would have heard quite a lot is the Agile Release Train Engineer, who serves as the Senior Scrum Master. Some organizations have got program managers because there are multiple Agile trains that have to run, and all the Agile Release Train engineers or senior Scrum Masters will report into the program manager, and he manages all the program of work. We've got the product management team, and they deal with all the product delivery and product exploration aspect I talked about. Without the product management team, we can't build our backlog. We can't have a well-structured epic, feature, stories, functional requirements, non-functional requirements, enablers, refactors, technical depth. Without the product management team, we wouldn't be refining them for the next stages of our SAFE implementation. And when we talk about iterations, program increments, they all live off the product management team. There are other roles like the system architect, business owners, solution trained engineers, solution management team, solution architect. All these roles are so important in the SAFE environment that I would like you to remember that at any point in time, you need to understand what the roles are and which teams are involved in a safe implementation. The next area is the configurations that exist within SAFE. As a very big framework working for big organizations, used by big organizations, we expect that not all organizations are of the same size. So there's a need for adaptability and using the right practices for each organization. And that is the mindset of a framework. A framework is not to be used by rote, or it's not something that you have to follow step by step. It's there for you to adapt to the size of your organization. So a small organization like Lean Icon Technology, we believe in the scaled agile framework, and we use various parts of it. We use elements in the portfolio, we use elements in the team, and we touch on elements in the program, and we use the product backlog heavily. There are 4 configurations of the SAFE framework. We've got the essential SAFE, the portfolio SAFE, the large solution SAFE, and the full SAFE. When we talk about the essential SAFE, most teams or most organizations will have to start off with the essential SAFE. Without the essential SAFE, you can't build a solution, you can't build an outcome. So we need to set up the essential SAFE. This is where the teams exist. This is where the product owners exist. This is where product management. And if you've got multiple teams, this is where the RTE, and they set up the work that needs to be done. Then for big organizations, like I talked about, Philips, Fujitsu, NASA, the big banks, they would use the large solution because they've got multiple agile release train, not just one agile release train. They could have about 43 in Philips, and they've got many in other organizations. And if you have such number of teams and people working using the safe way of working, you need to collaborate and manage all of this. And if you've got external suppliers also involved, you need to manage their work as well. So we use the large solution to manage large organizations implementing the safe framework. Next, we've got the portfolio safe. The portfolio includes the essential and the portfolio. The large solution will include the large solution essential. And if organizations start using the large solution, there's a tendency they will be using the full safe framework. So if we set up a team to go and build a solution like Crossrail, we could use a large solution, but government has a portfolio team that's managing all the work that goes to Crossrail or different organizations. And the work needs to be managed in a way that it brings value and benefits to the citizens or to the customer we are delivering the work. So the 4 configurations we've looked at are essential, portfolio, large solution, and full safe. I know in this 30 minutes, we are not doing enough justice because we need to go into each of the icons just to understand more. But it's 30 minutes, and I hope you bear with it. And if you've got any questions, let me know. So we've touched on the 4 configurations. Do remember essential, large solution, portfolio, and the full safe configuration. When will an organization use the full safe configuration? An organization like Philips will use the full safe configuration because they outsource some of their work. They've got multiple agile release trains, and we need to bring in all this work into the portfolio, manage them properly. So they will be using the full safe, embedding all the other areas of the framework. What is the 5th item? I think the 5th item is one of the most important. If you are practicing safe and you are not doing PI planning, then you are not a safe organization. Remember, if an organization is using safe and it's not using the PI planning event to manage cadence and the flow of work, then they are not using the safe framework. The PI planning is a 2-day event, big room planning. Now it's a 2-day virtual event, and organizations are managing around that. It's got a well-planned agenda led by the release train engineer, And we are using it as an opportunity to get teams to work together, understand the flow of work that will be delivered in the next program increment, identify dependencies which could impact projects, look at a product delivery roadmap, build a feature dependency roadmap, and with that, they are able to manage the flow of work. What are some of the inputs into the PI planning? The product backlog. I talked about the product backlog. Your epics, your features, and high level stories are an input into the PI planning event. Another input is the vision. Without a clear vision, the team won't be able to build the solution that's expected. And the third input is prioritized features. So if we are going into a PI planning event, which is a 2-day event, we want the product management team to prioritize what has to be delivered by the team and share it clearly so that the teams can work on them. Of course, there'll be backlog refinement sessions before the PI planning event. And we are hoping that the teams can use the 2 days with the support of business owners and other experts or stakeholders to plan their work for the next quarter or program increment. So where does the PI planning event happen? It happens at the beginning of each program increment or each quarter, and we'll have multiple iterations through the program increment, and then we'll have an IP iteration, then another PI planning event, then we move on to the next set of iterations. So PI planning, if you are practicing SAFe and you are not using the PI planning to manage the cadence and flow of your work, then you are not using SAFe. Last, for the 6 items that I've been sharing with you is the implementation roadmap. Everyone uses TomTom or any tool that helps them get from A to B. The implementation roadmap are the steps that enable organizations to go through their transformation, and it's based on practices, experiences, lessons learned from all other organizations. So if I adopt SAFe, I have something to work with. I can start off with the implementation roadmap. What's the burning platform? Why do we need to adopt SAFe? Let's bring in SAFe program consultants. Let's bring in practitioners who've been involved in it. And importantly, there's a team here, the Lean Agile Center of Excellence or the Center of Excellence. If we have such a team helping us implement the SAFe framework and guiding and supporting us, we will train our leaders, train other roles, train the team, create an implementation plan, prepare to launch our Agile release trains, and then use those learnings to launch other trains and continuously improve. The implementation roadmap serves as steps to help us take critical moves in implementing SAFe orderly, reliably, and in much more of a successful fashion to get the necessary outcomes in our organization. It requires us to look at each step we've involved in the implementation roadmap, and it will help an organization when they are on this journey. The key takeaways that I would like you to take away from today's story, our story, you and I's story, something you should remember about the Skilled Agile framework. If you were to walk away, just remember we started with a story and we ended with a story. But what are the key takeaways? One, if you're implementing SAFe, you need to think about business agility. 2, we've got 7 competencies. We've got roles and teams. We've got configurations. We've got PI planning. And we've got the implementation roadmap. Personally, I think they make up the SAFe framework. And if you can take a strong look at these key areas or core areas of the Skilled Agile framework, you are building your knowledge, you are building your understanding, and over time, you would understand why it delivers much value for organizations. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them. I think there's a question in the chat box. Okay. Can we see the essential safe framework? Yes, definitely we can see the essential safe framework. The essential safe framework is this area of the entire big picture. So we do call it the big picture. Is this area where we have teams and we have the release train engineers supporting the teams. The teams are led by their scrum masters. We've got product owners who engage with the product management team led by a product manager. And then we've got the RTE and the systems architect. We've got the business owners, and they practice design thinking. But the whole focus is, can we build solutions that deliver value for our customers? Any other questions? Has anyone got any questions, or have I made it so simple and easy for everyone to understand? Any comments?
William, I've got a question. I've just posted a question in the chat box.
Okay. Is the user experience and BA in the dev team in safe? Yes. So I do hear this quite a lot, that in the skilled agile framework or in the agile scrum framework, they don't talk about business analysts. But in real life, with the teams I go to and the teams I speak with, without the role of the business analyst, the product owner is struggling. And why do I say that? I've seen banks, I can't mention names. I've seen banks who've been on this journey, laid off a lot of business analysts and then brought them back, appointed them as proxy product owners or some as product owners, trained some to be product owners to help with the transformation. So the role BA, or let's say the business analyst, is so important in helping organizations deliver. If you don't have someone, let's say if you have a product owner, they must have a BA mindset. How do I go about eliciting requirements, building my backlog? It's not about inviting people into backlog refinement session once to get the backlog ready. There's more sessions you need to put together to make sure that your backlog is ready to deliver the next program increments. And if you don't do that, yeah, you get a lot of questions from your development teams. Your development teams will be actually unhappy with you because as a product manager or product owner, you've not kept your backlog ready. You've just failed the team because when they ask you questions, you don't have the answers. And I've taught sessions for product managers where there have been teams around and they've been trying to say words because they don't want to offend the product owner who's probably a senior within the organization. And they've been asking, what can we do to help our product owners? I said, the teams can help the product owner with the backlog refinement. They can help them with stories. They can help them with acceptance criteria. But it's so important that the product owner acts as an analyst with that analyst mindset, goes out to gather information to help make the product backlog ready. I've got another question from Lola. Thank you, Lola. Can small scale organizations implement scaled agile with less than 200 employees? Of course, yes. We've been using scaled agile, lean icon, and we are not more than 20. But we've got consultants who are helping us on the journey, and we are using the practices, we are using some of the frameworks within the scaled agile, a big picture to help us deliver to our customers. There's customer centricity, there's design thinking, there's a need to have that continuous learning mindset, there's a need for leadership to understand what it means to be agile, not just talk agile. And we've also been on that journey where we've been looking at our portfolio, re-strategizing and making sure that we adapt to our market needs. So whether you're a small or big small or big or large organization, the skilled agile framework definitely can support you on your transformation journey. And do remember, it's now more business agility, not just team agility. It's the focus is business agility. And let me bring back those 6 key elements that I shared with you today. Remember them and they will build your knowledge on the skilled agile framework, business agility, competencies, roles and teams, configurations, PI planning, and implementation roadmap. If you can have this on at your fingertips whilst looking at the skilled agile framework, you you just have a better understanding of the framework, and you could build on by attending courses and then also reading more. Watch the videos, watch our other videos, and they would all help you in shaping your knowledge in understanding the safe framework. Just being mindful that it's a continuous learning culture. I've been learning and I've not stopped learning. And I didn't used to be, let's say, someone who just keeps on learning, but now I've seen the value and the need to just continuously learn, and it's building my knowledge, and working with clients has also built my experience. Learning is not good, but go out, work with clients, and also adapt the framework for your own good. Any other questions? I think I'll add to this. Any other questions or additions or subtractions? That would really help. Yeah. So feel free to make comments or let me know what your thoughts are, or what are your thoughts. I know I've got 3 minutes to wrap up the session. What are your thoughts, additions for the sessions? Can you please type in a quick yes if you feel today's session has been helpful to you? So please do type in a quick yes and let me know that everyone is there and I've not been talking just to. Fantastic. Thank you, folks. Oh, Lola says, can we increase the time to 45 minutes? Oh, it's something we have to think about. 30 minutes, maximum 40. So tomorrow we've got, I said tomorrow, on Thursday, we've got coaching, skills, and culture for everyone's gain with Shirley. And it's all about relationships. Do we need to build relationships as coaches or coachees? Of course, we need to build such relationships. And Shirley will be taking us through this particular session on coaching and skills and culture for everyone's gain. So please do join the sessions, and I'll be joining the session on Thursday as well.